Welcome back to Bar Girl Baddies. Today's story comes from a guy who thought he'd cracked the code to happiness in Bangkok. His name is James, 32 years old, from Manchester, and 6 months ago he was living what he called his perfect life: cheap rent in a nice condo, warm weather year-round, and a girlfriend who made him feel like the man he'd always wanted to be. But perfect lives, built on shaky foundations, don't stay perfect for long. What started as a romance with a massage shop worker named Ploy turned into a masterclass in self-deception, financial manipulation, and the kind of heartbreak that makes you question everything you thought you knew about love and trust. This is a story about the difference between being wanted and being needed, between building a relationship and funding a fantasy. And if you've ever convinced yourself that this time it's different, that your situation is special, that the red flags are just cultural misunderstandings, then James's story might hit a little too close to home. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. And if you've ever found yourself in a similar situation, whether in Thailand or anywhere else, hit that like button and subscribe. You're not alone in this, and sometimes just knowing that makes all the difference. Now, let's hear from James himself. The first will be honest with you. I never planned to be that guy. You know the type. Middle-aged bloke, bit soft around the middle, living in Southeast Asia with a girl half his age who calls him handsome. I used to see them in the bars back home before I left, scrolling through their phones, showing anyone who'd listened photos of their Thai girlfriends. I'd think, mate, come on, you're not fooling anyone. But here's the thing about judgment. It's easy when you're on the outside looking in. It's a lot harder when you're the one buying the plane ticket. My life in Manchester was fine. That's the best word for it. Fine. I worked in IT support for a telecommunications company, had my own flat, saw my mates down the pub most Fridays. I wasn't miserable. I wasn't particularly happy either. I was just sort of existing, going through the motions, wake up, work, eat, sleep, repeat. The winters were getting longer, or maybe I was just getting older. Either way, by the time I hit 30, I'd started wondering if this was really all there was. The Thailand idea started innocently enough. A mate from work, Dave, had done a few trips to Phuket and kept banging on about how amazing it was, how far your money went, how friendly everyone was, how you could live like a king on what you barely survive on back home. I wasn't convinced at first. I'd never been much of a traveller. Spain for a week in the summer was about my limit. But Dave kept at it, and one night after a few pints, I found myself watching YouTube videos about expat life in Thailand. That's where it starts, isn't it? The algorithm. You watch one video, and suddenly your entire feed is guys talking about their amazing lives in Bangkok. Big apartments for a fraction of London prices. Street food that costs less than a meal, deal from Tesco sunshine every day. And the women. God, the videos about the women. Beautiful, feminine, traditional, they'd say. Not like the girls back home who've been ruined by feminism or whatever nonsense they were spouting. I didn't buy into all that rubbish, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't intrigued. I booked a 2-week holiday just to see what the fuss was about. That was March 2023. I landed in Bangkok on a Tuesday afternoon, and the heat hit me like opening an oven door. Thick, wet heat that made my shirt stick to my back before I'd even left the airport. But there was something about it. Something that made me feel more alive than I'd felt in years. The taxi ride to my hotel was chaos. Motorbikes weaving between cars, street vendors set up on every corner, neon signs in Thai script I couldn't read. It was overwhelming and exciting and completely foreign, and I loved every second of it. The first week was touristy stuff, temples and markets, and a boat trip down the Chao Phraya River. I stayed in Sukhumvit, near Nana, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't notice the nightlife. The go-go bars, the massage parlours, the girls calling out to every foreign man who walked past. It was seedy, yeah, but it was also sort of fascinating in a way I couldn't quite explain. Like stumbling into a world that existed in parallel to the one I knew, with completely different rules. I met Poi on day 9. I'd walked past her massage shop 3 or 4 times that week. It was on Sukhumvit Soi 5, painted bright pink with a big sign advertising traditional Thai massage for 300 baht an hour. There were always 4 or 5 girls sitting out front in matching pink uniforms, and Ploy was usually the one scrolling through her phone, looking bored. She was pretty, but not in an obvious way. Small, maybe 5'2", with shoulder-length black hair and this little gap between her front teeth that showed when she smiled. She looked young, but not too young. Mid-20s, I guessed, though I'd learn later she was 28. That afternoon I finally went in. My back was killing me from sleeping on a rubbish hotel mattress, and I figured, why not? Ploy was the one who greeted me. Her English was decent, better than most of the other girls I tried to chat with that week. She asked where I was from, how long I was staying, the usual questions. Then she led me upstairs to a small room with a mat on the floor and told me to change into the cotton pajamas they provided. The massage itself was fine. Proper Thai massage, all elbows and knees, the kind that hurts in a good way. But what I remember most was how we talked through the whole thing. She asked about my job, my family, why I was travelling alone. I asked about her life, her family up in Isan, how she'd ended up in Bangkok. It felt easy, natural. When the hour was up, I felt more relaxed than I had in months. And when she smiled and said, maybe I'd come back tomorrow, I knew I would. I went back the next day, and the day after that. By the end of my 2 weeks, I'd been to that massage shop 8 times, and every time I requested ploy. We started messaging online after my 3rd visit. Just casual stuff at first. She'd send me pictures of her lunch, I'd send her photos of the temples I visited, but it felt like something was building, you know? Like there was a connection there beyond just customer and masseuse. On my last night in Bangkok, I asked if she wanted to get dinner after her shift. She said yes. We went to a little seafood place near Asok Station, sat on plastic stools at a wobbly table, and ate grilled fish and papaya salad while the traffic roared past. She told me about growing up poor in Buriram, about sending money home to her parents every month, about her dream of opening her own beauty salon someday. I told her about Manchester, about the grey skies and the cold rain, about how alive I'd felt these past 2 weeks. When I said I didn't want to leave, she reached across the table and touched my hand. Maybe you come back soon, she said. Maybe I will, I said. I thought about her the entire flight home. I couldn't get her out of my head. The way she laughed, the way she looked at me like I was interesting, like I mattered. Back in Manchester, my flat felt smaller than ever. The weather was miserable. Work was the same mind-numbing routine. I'd scroll through our line chats during my lunch break, looking at the photos she'd send. Selfies in her pink uniform, pictures of her dinner, sometimes just a message saying she missed me. 3 months later, I quit my job. I'd been with the company for 8 years, and I handed in my notice with 2 weeks warning. My boss thought I'd lost my mind. My mum cried when I told her I was moving to Thailand. My mates down the pub gave me endless stick about running off to be with some Thai bird I barely knew, but I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt like I was doing something, taking control of my life, making a change. I arrived back in Bangkok in July with 2 suitcases and enough savings to live comfortably for a year, maybe 2 if I was careful. I'd found a studio apartment online, nothing fancy but clean and modern, in a building off Sukhumvit Soi 11, 20,000 baht a month, all included, back home that wouldn't have covered a week's rent. Ploy helped me move in. She brought cleaning supplies and a little lucky cat statue for good fortune. That first night, she stayed over, and it felt like everything had finally clicked into place. Like I'd found what I'd been looking for all along. The first 2 months were brilliant. Better than brilliant. We'd see each other almost every day. She'd finish her shift at the massage shop around 8 or 9, sometimes later if it was busy, and she'd come over to my place. We'd order food, watch Netflix with Thai subtitles, just exist together in this comfortable bubble we'd created. On her days off, we'd explore the city, markets in Chatuchak, temples in the old town, cheap eats in Chinatown. She'd translate menus for me, negotiate with taxi drivers, make me feel like I belonged. I loved how she took care of me. She'd notice when I was running low on something and show up with a new bottle of shampoo or a bag of my favourite snacks from 7-Eleven. She'd message me good morning every day and good night every evening. She made me feel wanted in a way I'd never experienced before. Like I was her priority. Like I was special. Looking back now, I can see how I mistook attention for affection. How I confused being needed with being loved. But at the time, it all felt real. It felt like the most real thing in my life. The money conversation started small, little things, easy to justify. Her motorbike broke down and she needed 2,000 baht for repairs. Her mum was sick and she needed to send extra money home for medicine. The massage shop was slow and she was short on her rent. 500 baht here, 1,000 there. It never seemed like much, and she always said she'd pay me back, though she never did. But I didn't mind. I had savings. I could afford it. And more than that, I wanted to help her. I wanted to be the kind of man who could solve problems, who could make her life easier. She started staying over most nights, not officially moving in, but her stuff accumulated. Clothes in my wardrobe, toiletries in my bathroom, her shampoo next to mine in the shower. I liked it. It made the place feel less lonely, less temporary. It made it feel like home. Then one night, about 3 months after I'd moved to Bangkok, she told me she wanted to quit the massage shop. She was tired of it, she said. Tired of the long hours, the handsy customers, the boss who paid them late. She wanted to find something better, maybe work in a spa or a hotel, something more respectable. I understood. Of course I understood. The problem was, she'd need time to find a new job, and she couldn't afford to be unemployed. Her family depended on the money she sent home, so I offered to support her while she looked. Just temporarily, I said, just until she found something new. It seemed like the right thing to do, the decent thing. She cried when I offered, told me I was the best man she'd ever known, told me she'd never forget this kindness. And I felt good, you know? I felt like a hero. She quit the next week. For the first few days, she spent time on her phone, supposedly applying to jobs, updating her CV, but then the job search started to take a back seat. She'd sleep in late, spend her afternoons at the mall with her friends, come home with shopping bags from Siam Paragon. When I'd ask about the job hunt, she'd say it was hard, that places wanted experience she didn't have, that she was still looking. Soon, I was giving her 15,000 baht a month. For her family, for her rent at the place she technically still had, but never stayed at, for her expenses. It was less than I'd been spending anyway, I told myself. Less than going out drinking with the lads back home would have cost. But the requests kept coming. Her brother needed money for school fees. Her father's truck needed repairs. The roof of her family home was leaking and needed to be fixed before rainy season got worse. Every story came with photos. Her mum looking sad. Her little brother in his school uniform. The broken truck. The leaking roof. I couldn't say no. What kind of person would I be if I said no? By month 5, I was giving her 25,000 baht a month, plus covering all our expenses when we went out, plus helping with these emergency situations that seemed to come up every other week. My savings were draining faster than I'd planned. I'd budgeted for my own expenses, not for supporting another person and her entire family. But I convinced myself it was temporary. Once she found a job, things would level out. She'd start contributing again. We'd be partners, except she never found a job. Or rather, she never seriously looked. I realised that now. At the time, I was too deep in it to see clearly. I was too attached to the version of reality I'd constructed in my head. The one where I was the good guy helping his girlfriend through a rough patch, where this was all part of our love story, where eventually we'd look back on this time and laugh about how hard it was, but how we got through it together. The cracks started showing in ways I couldn't ignore. She'd be glued to her phone constantly, messaging people in Thai, smiling at her screen in ways she didn't smile at me anymore. When I'd ask who she was talking to, she'd say friends, or family, or just scrolling through Facebook. But she'd angle the screen away from me. She'd switch apps when I walked past, little things, but they added up. She started going out more without me. Girls' nights, she'd say. Her friend was having a birthday. Her cousin was in town. She'd leave around 9 and roll in at 3 or 4 in the morning, smelling like cigarettes and whiskey, and climb into bed without saying a word. In the morning, she'd sleep until noon, and when she woke up, she'd be irritable and distant. I started feeling like a wallet with a heartbeat, like my value was measured entirely in what I could provide. We stopped having real conversations. We stopped laughing together. We stopped having sex, or when we did, it felt mechanical, obligatory. But I didn't know how to bring it up. I didn't know how to say, I feel like you're using me, without sounding paranoid or controlling. And part of me was terrified that if I pushed too hard, she'd leave. And then what would I have? I'd have quit my job, moved halfway around the world, burned through my savings, all for a relationship that was falling apart. So I did what a lot of men in my position do. I pretended everything was fine. I threw more money at the problem, hoping it would fix things. When she said she wanted to go to Phuket for a weekend, I booked us a hotel and paid for everything. When she said she wanted a new phone because hers was old and slow, I bought her the latest iPhone. When she said her family needed 10,000 baht for her grandmother's medical bills, I transferred it without question. I was buying her presents. I was buying the illusion that we were still together, still a couple, Still something real. And the saddest part is, one knew it. Deep down, I knew it. But I couldn't stop. Because stopping meant admitting I'd made a massive mistake. It meant admitting that everyone who'd warned me had been right. The breaking point came on a Saturday in December. We'd been together, if you can call it that, for about 8 months. She'd gone out Friday night for what she said was a friend's birthday party in Thonglor. She didn't come home Friday night. She didn't answer my messages. Her phone went straight to voicemail. I barely slept, imagining every worst-case scenario. By Saturday afternoon, I was genuinely worried something had happened to her. She finally showed up around 4 in the afternoon, wearing the same clothes from the night before, makeup smudged, looking exhausted. I asked where she'd been. She said she'd stayed at her friend's place because it was too late to get a taxi. I asked why she hadn't messaged me. She said her phone died. I asked why she hadn't borrowed a friend's phone to let me know she was okay. She got angry, started yelling at me in Thai and English, calling me jealous, saying I didn't trust her, saying she wasn't my property. I didn't respond with anger. I responded with something worse. I responded with defeat. I just said, quietly, I know this isn't real anymore. I know you don't love me. And I watched her face change. The anger drained away and was replaced with something else. Not guilt, exactly. More like irritation that the game was up. She didn't deny it. She just said, in English, you think I love you, you pay me, that's not love, that's business. And there it was. The truth I'd been avoiding for months, laid out plain and simple. I'd been a customer all along. A better paying customer than the massage shop, sure, but still just a customer. The dinners, the trips, the late night conversations, the way she'd rest her head on my shoulder while we watched TV, all of it was a performance. A transaction. She left that night, packed her stuff, which didn't take long since most of it was still at her actual apartment, and called a taxi. Before she walked out, she turned to me and said, "You're a good man, James. But you're a stupid man. You think Thai girl love you because you have money. No, Thai girl love your money, that's all." I sat in that empty apartment for 3 days straight. I didn't eat, barely drank water. Just sat there, replaying every moment, every conversation, every time I'd convinced myself this was real. I'd spent close to 400,000 baht on her over those 8 months. That's about 10 grand in pounds. 10 grand for a girlfriend who was never my girlfriend. 10 grand to learn what should have been obvious from the start. The worst part wasn't the money. It was the humiliation, the knowing that I'd become exactly the guy I'd mocked. The guy everyone warned me about. The delusional expat who thought he was special, who thought the rules didn't apply to him, who thought his situation was different. I stayed in Bangkok for another month, but it felt like living in a graveyard. Every street reminded me of her. Every 7-Eleven, every BTS station, every noodle cart. I couldn't escape the ghost of what I'd thought we had. I'd message Dave from time to time, and he'd tell me about other guys he knew who'd been through the same thing. The retired bloke who'd built his girlfriend's family, a house, and then she'd left him for a Thai guy. The teacher who'd sent his girlfriend to university only to have her graduate and ghost him. The businessman who'd married a bar girl and discovered she had 2 other foreign boyfriends sending her money at the same time. These stories should have made me feel less alone, but they just made me feel more pathetic. We were all part of the same stupid club. Men who'd mistaken kindness for sale with kindness freely given. Men who'd convinced themselves that this time it was different, that their girl wasn't like the others, that what they had was special. I moved back to Manchester in January, had to borrow money from my mum to afford the flight because my savings were nearly gone. I'm living with her now while I look for work, which at 32 is humiliating in ways I don't have words for. I managed to get a job doing IT support again, different company but same work, same grey cubicle, same feeling I've gone backwards instead of forwards. My mates don't ask about Thailand anymore. They made their jokes when I first got back, the told you so comments, the inevitable ribbing about my Thai girlfriend. But they've mostly dropped it now. I think they can see it's not funny to me. It's not even painful anymore, really. It's just this dull, constant embarrassment. This awareness that I'll be that guy for the rest of my life in their eyes, the one who fell for it. I still think about Ploy sometimes, not in a longing way, not like I miss her, more like you think about a car crash you were in, remembering the details, trying to figure out the exact moment it all went wrong, wondering if there was a point where I could have swerved and avoided the whole thing. The truth is, there were 1,000 moments. Every time she asked for money, and I gave it without question. Every time I ignored the evidence in front of me because acknowledging it would mean admitting I'd been wrong. Every time I chose the comfortable lie over the uncomfortable truth. People ask me sometimes if I blame her. The honest answer is no, not really. She was doing what she needed to do to survive, to support her family, to get by in a city that's expensive if you're Thai and working minimum wage. She saw an opportunity and she took it. I don't think she set out to hurt me. I don't think she lay awake at night feeling guilty. I think I was just business, like she said. And business isn't personal. I blame myself more than I blame her. I blame myself for being so desperate to feel special that I ignored every red flag. I blame myself for thinking that paying for someone's life meant they'd love me. I blame myself for being so lonely and so naive that I mistook a business transaction for a relationship. But here's what I've learned, and here's why I'm sharing this story. If you're thinking about moving to Thailand, about starting a life there with someone you barely know, about supporting a girlfriend who works in the nightlife industry or adjacent to it, please listen to me. I'm not saying it never works out. I'm not saying every Thai woman is a scammer or that genuine relationships don't exist. I'm saying be honest with yourself about what you're buying. If a woman needs your money to be with you, she's not with you, she's with your money. And that's fine if you both understand that's the arrangement. Some guys are perfectly happy paying for companionship. They know what it is, and they're okay with it. But if you're doing what I did, if you're convincing yourself it's love, if you're building a future in your head while she's counting her profit, you're setting yourself up for the kind of heartbreak that changes you. I'll never date another massage girl in Bangkok. I'll never date another bar girl, another woman who sees me as an ATM with feelings. Not because I think they're bad people, but because I know what I am to them. I know the dynamic, and I know I'm not strong enough to navigate it without losing myself. If I ever go back to Thailand, which honestly I don't know if I will, I'll go as a tourist. I'll enjoy the food and the weather and the temples. I'll get a massage and leave a good tip, and that'll be that. I won't look for love in places where love isn't for sale, even though it's dressed up to look like it is. That's my story, that's my warning. Take it for what it's worth. And that's where we'll leave James today. His story isn't unique, and that's maybe the saddest part of all. There are hundreds, maybe thousands of men who've lived some version of what James went through. Men who moved halfway around the world, chasing a dream that was never really theirs to begin with. Men who confused financial dependency for emotional connection. Who thought that providing made them irreplaceable. Who learnt too late that you can't buy genuine affection no matter how much you spend. It's easy to judge James. It's easy to say he should have known better, that the signs were obvious, that anyone with half a brain could see what was happening. But the truth is, loneliness makes us all a bit stupid. Loneliness makes us want to believe. It makes us overlook things we'd spot immediately if we were watching someone else's life instead of living our own. James wasn't a bad person. He wasn't even a particularly naive person. He was just a normal guy who felt invisible in his normal life, who stumbled into a situation that made him feel seen, and who paid dearly for confusing attention with affection. The Poys of the world aren't villains in this story. They're survivors, working within a system that's been operating in Thailand's tourist areas for decades. A system where foreign men provide financial support and local women provide companionship. And everyone pretends it's something more than it is, until eventually the truth becomes impossible to ignore. The lesson here isn't, don't date Thai women. It isn't even, don't date bar girls or massage girls. The lesson is, know what you're getting into. Be honest with yourself about the power dynamics at play. Understand that in any relationship where one person holds all the financial power and the other person has none, genuine equality is nearly impossible. That doesn't mean those relationships can't work, but it means they require a level of self-awareness and clear communication that most people don't have. If you're someone who's considering making the same move James made, ask yourself some hard questions first. Why are you really going? What are you running from? What void are you trying to fill? Because if the answer is loneliness, if the answer is feeling invisible or unsuccessful or unlovable back home, moving to Thailand won't fix that. It'll just transplant your problems to a place with better weather. And if you're already in a relationship like the one James described, if you're reading this and feeling that uncomfortable recognition in your gut, it's not too late to step back and reassess. You don't have to blow up your life to learn from James's mistakes. You can choose differently. You can ask the hard questions now instead of later. You can decide whether you're okay with the reality of your situation or whether you need to make a change. James is back in Manchester now, living with his mum, rebuilding his life from scratch at 32. He says he's embarrassed, and I believe him. But I also think he's brave for sharing his story. For being willing to be that guy, if it means someone else might avoid making the same mistakes. That takes a certain kind of courage, the kind that only comes after you've lost everything and realised you're still standing. So wherever you're watching this from, whatever your own Thailand story might be or might become, remember James. Remember that the most expensive lessons are the ones we learn from our own mistakes. And remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you got it wrong, pick yourself up and try again. Thanks for watching. If James's story resonated with you, or if you've got your own experiences to share, drop them in the comments below. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Sometimes we can't save ourselves, but we can save each other. Until next time, take care of yourselves and stay grounded out there.